Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Open Table Adventures. As always, I'm Dan the Baker, and we are here today with Table Talks, our little interview series where we talk to some of mine, hopefully your favorite TTRPG content creators. Today, with me, I have the wonderful Sin. Hi, Sin. How are you?
Hi, I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing lovely. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I would love to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh God, I made dot jots too. Hi, I'm Sin. I love TTRPGs in both my free time and my personal life. I am a child and youth therapist. I focus on drama and roleplay therapy. But I also sometimes make silly little videos on the internet and tell stories with friends on streams. Um, that's kind of it. I vibe. I exist on the internet.
Yeah. Hey, that's all you need to do. That's all you're required. No one needs more. I'm glad you exist on the internet, that's for sure.
Thank you. I hope you know that anytime I see baking videos from you, I'm like, I could do that. And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm just gonna watch Dan and pretend that's me.
That's, hey, vicarious living. That's what we're here for. um, Great. I would love to start off actually talking a little bit about. You just mentioned it, talking about doing your working with the kids and like all the therapy stuff. How did you get into that? Like, how did that start
Um,
up?
oh, it's a fun little journey. I actually have always wanted to be in the field of social services and social work. Just because like my family was involved, I was involved with a lot of various like entry points with youth mental health professionals.
Hmm.
Um, and so I went to school for it, and I was feeling kind of lost, to be honest, graduating, because I graduated like a couple years before the pandemic.
Hmm.
And so, like, I had tried to start a career, and then, the panini hit, and it was
Yeah.
like, oh, no one wants to do. Well, also, therapy's hard to do online. Um,
Especially with kids, for sure. If that was, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It was funnily enough, I started in the broad spectrum of youth, so I worked with people
Hmm.
in their like mid to late 20s,
Hmm.
which was a little bit hard when you yourself are in your early 20s. And so you
Hmm.
have these elder 20-year-olds being like, you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, I really don't. Uh, and I actually started out in addictions and anger management, which I still really love.
Hmm.
Um, but it was kind of I think I got disillusioned by the whole system of
Yeah,
what
that's
resources
rough.
are available and how people actually care for you based on what kind of age. And so sometimes I joke that I took the easy way out to a
Hmm.
field that has more resources. And during the panini and just before, I had someone gift me a box of shiny dice. Didn't
Ooh.
even introduce me to TTRPGs. They're just like, I got you some dice because they're pretty and you collect crystals. And I would just sit there and like kind of stim with them. And then
Hmm.
eventually that friend was like, do you actually want to try playing a game? Because then you can roll these. And I was like, hold up, you roll these?
These have a
Okay.
use. They're not just pretty.
Um, and because I wasn't really working, I went back to school online and I found out you could specialize in play therapy.
Hmm.
And then through that, you can kind of pick more of a focused venue. And I think because I was very fixated on D&D at the time, I really wanted to focus on that and kind of how do we tell stories about ourselves through like silly little imaginary characters.
Hmm.
And it's kind of just rolled on from there. And it's had many uses. Actually, one area I haven't used it in, which is its original use, is with people on the spectrum
Hmm.
around building social skills. I haven't done that, but it seems so cool from all the research I see.
Yeah, I actually just read an article. I cannot remember who it was by, but it was specifically about the use of that therapy with people on the spectrum. It was about various different. I was looking at it because it was talking about music therapy, and then also went on to like game and play therapy because I was originally went to school for music therapy before I switched various times for other things.
Node.
Yeah, but it was super interesting. Just because these games do give such a good insight into how people think and how people sometimes think about themselves. Um, like depending on how much of yourself you put into your characters and how much that does reflect who you are. Um, but yeah, it's a great tool for figuring out mental health stuff for sure.
Yeah, and sorry, I just saw your mug. I love it.
Oh.
I think what's really great about it too is like it's like that double-edged sword. I'm sure you've seen that conversation of a new edition of a game coming out that has bleed mechanics. I think it's very interesting because I think, regardless if we're aware of it or not, most people do self-insert some section of themselves into these characters. It's hard because I have this conversation with people all the time because there's this like whole joke or meme in the TTRPG community, which is, it's my therapy, is my self-insert character. And I'm like, it can be therapeutic, but it's not therapy unless you have a therapist friend.
Yeah. I think what people really are saying, it's cathartic, maybe, is probably what they're thinking, but they just don't have, like, as I've joked, is like, it's, to work things out, it can sometimes be nice. Like, there's times where I'm like, I'm having a bad day, I have a D&D game later, and I really just want to, like, beat something up. I want to get out my aggression. Like, let's have some combat. Like, that's, but that's, catharsis, not, therapy.
Yeah. Though I will say, I think it's a really fun and safe way to go through really big emotions without having to go through them IRL. Like, I recently had my wife in a game cheat on me and divorce me because of that, and I'm like, I'm so glad this isn't real.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm still sad.
Yeah. Because, I think with bleed, like, bleed does kind of naturally happen from time to time, but the important part, I think, is having boundaries with it. Like, between both you and your character and between everyone at the table, that's super important, for sure.
Absolutely. I will say, I don't know how much the viewers have read into it or looked into it. I don't necessarily think bleed is bad. I think sometimes it leans into a story, but the mechanics, there's a section where they're saying, like, there's benefits to chasing bleed and chasing that big emotion, and I'm like, oh, let's not purposefully, like, hurt ourselves like this.
Yeah. I think also just the kind of the gamification of it, like having it as a like a solid rule is what came off a little iffy to me.
Oh, absolutely. And like, I'm gonna shift it a little bit to a more positive view.
Yeah.
I don't know like what you do, but like for myself, when I have like really emotional sessions, I like tend to go and write 5 things that are different between me and my characters and feel like we are not the same person. We can share this feeling, but it's not me.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing for sure. Just having that separation for sure. That nice clean cut. I'd love to touch on a little bit, because you have both been a player, you run games and stuff like that. How did you kind of started talking about how like your friend got you the dice, and that's kind of how you got into TTRPGs. But how did that kind of evolve to where it is today?
Oh gosh. Well, it's very funny. I think we got 3 sessions in, and I joined this group. So they had been playing for a year, and it was 3 sessions in, and the DM was like, guys, I have burnout. I can't play. I can't run games, which is so valid, because I think some people really underestimate the amount of work it takes to run a game. Like, even if you're not constantly planning, it's a lot of energy to sit there and have to make sure people are, like, respecting each other's boundaries and the story is flowing. And so I started GMing myself, but it was one of those things where, like, we're adults, our schedules are not the same, and so it became like a once a month game. And like, I was very much one of those people who like dove head first and was like, I need more games, please. And I went to my local game shop, and they actually didn't have any player spots left, but they were looking for GMs to run games and modules, and I was like, oh, I'll give it a try. Just no one hate me, please. And they ended up really liking some of the games I was running, and it continued on from there. But what I found really interesting was what kind of really made that connection for me was I was doing group therapy for some kids who were doing this program at the time called Fresh Start, which is where you leave juvie basically and reintegrate back into school. And it got very interesting because I was noticing this pattern where they were doing like a silly little voice anytime they had to have really vulnerable conversations. Especially like conversations about like restoring and like repairing relationships with each other in their communities. And you know, I think I made that first judgment too that a lot of adults made, which was like, why are you being silly? This is a serious moment. And I noticed after like a couple weeks that it was happening every vulnerable conversation, and it was just easier for them to use something they saw as silly to be able to talk about something really serious and scary. And I started thinking about like the research with like autism and D&D, which is the really big draw there is this idea that you can externalize social situations. So if you fail, it's because the dice rolled low. It's not because of you and your ability to have them. And so I started kind of running my group therapy sessions around having a character, not D&D or anything at first, but just making a character that we could externalize the things we were struggling with. And it got really popular, and I started building like a bigger caseload because a lot of families were asking me, you know, my older child was with Sin. Can my younger child also do this program through Sin instead of someone else? And it kind of grew from there, and now I work like kind of contracted into a school board, and I run a lot of individual therapy through like solo RPGs, and then also doing it in group settings, because it really is, I think personally, you develop things a lot better through play than through sitting down at a desk and being like, let's talk about therapy, let's talk about our feelings. And I think when you naturalize it through play, it makes it easier to learn and develop those coping mechanisms in yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
And then it was like, I had, the other aspect of like the social media was like, I had a friend who was just constantly sending me TikToks through text message because I didn't have TikTok. And I was like, these are a lot of links. I'm gonna be real, I'm not gonna click them. And so my friend literally took my phone and downloaded the TikTok app and was like, now you don't even have to engage, okay? Just watch the TikToks I send you. And I made a silly little video about owning dice and having a dice addiction, and it kind of grew from there. And one of the beauties of social media is you meet a lot of people. And then one day a friend was like, hey, would you like to be a guest on a stream? And I was like, sure. And then it kind of just snowballed from there a little bit. Like, I'm not like some massive creator, but I am lucky enough that I'm like, when I do get to engage in these kinds of projects, I'm doing them with people like you who I really like and really want to engage with, rather than being like, this is my job and I have to do as many projects as I can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because was that this year? Earlier this year that we played together?
Oh my, yes,
that was January with oh my god, I can't. It was Alexander's game. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. That was so fun. That was my first time streaming a game. I'd done some pre-recorded stuff. That was my first time doing it live, which is so different.
So different.
It's so different. Yeah. Even like now, because like we do all of our pre-recorded stuff here, and I've done a couple more streams. I'm like, I feel more relaxed doing pre-recorded stuff than doing stream stuff.
Can I just say, I wish I was like you. I have recently shifted to doing pre-recorded projects, and I'm like, this is so much nicer. Like, because when you're on stream, you're like, I'm pressured to pick something to do within such a fast time frame because, like, I don't want it to be a 4-hour stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
and like, it's you with pre-recorded stuff, you focus less on like, oh, I don't want to make a mistake. Because you have that thought, it's like, if I make a mistake, we can just say, oh, let's go back a couple minutes, cut that out, redo it. Because, you know, it's all pre-recorded, you can all edit it out. While on stream, you can't really you could do that, but, like, it messes up the flow and stuff. But, yeah, it's still so much fun. I think just the community aspect is my favorite part of it, for sure.
Oh, yeah, I always struggle. I don't know how you feel. I always struggle with like the word community when it comes to like TTRPG. Because I feel like sometimes people use the word community so loosely to mean anyone who has the shared interest. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like community is very like intentional. Because like, I would consider some big folks in the TTRPG space part of my community, and other ones I'm like, I don't talk to you, so not really. No.
Yeah. I think it's funny because there is the TTRPG community as a whole, and then there's so many little bubbles inside of it That I think that's more so what the community is. Like, I guess it's the TTRPG world, and then there's all these different little countries inside of it, you know?
Yeah, I actually used to be one of those people who used it loosely, and then there are some people who are in the space that I'm like, you know, not something I personally want to associate with, so I'm just gonna sit over here with my books.
Yeah, that is valid for sure. I use a lot of words loosely, honestly. So
Honestly, it's a vibe. I'm trying to like work on it with some things, but I'm like, no.
No, that's totally valid though. I'd love to talk a little bit about because I think you have such a strong sense of aesthetic, of personal aesthetic. And I personally love like your how you do your makeup and your hair and like how you dress is so strong and so like characterized. Like when I see like I can see someone else wearing something, I'd be like, that's a Sin outfit, you know, or like that's a Sin look. I have to know how to like have you always been, you know, in this kind of aesthetic, or are you kind of is that something that's kind of developed?
First, I just want to say I love that you're saying that when I have no makeup on and I'm just in my comfy clothes. I think it's been a mix. Like I've always been like someone who's a little bit out there, but I would say that like it's redeveloped. Like I think in high school, because I didn't have a ton of friends, I was very much like, I don't really care. I want to dress how I want. And then, you know, you kind of hit that whole, you're in undergrad, you're in college or university, but also you have to get a job. And then, like, some people are really judgmental. I'm really glad that that's not as prevalent anymore. But it used to be. And so I kind of just started wearing black and white. And I think it had a lot to do with, like, I'm realizing this as we have this interview. It coincided with like a lot of my gender questioning, and I think so. I just went black and white a lot to be like, this is easier.
Yeah.
But I think in getting more comfortable with my gender identity and like the way I present my gender, I think I've gotten a lot more colorful and a lot more stylized. Like it took me a while to like even get back into makeup because I was like, I don't want people to assume I'm a woman and like wearing makeup is a woman singing. I'm like, but like it really isn't. Like, kind of getting into it. But I think I've always just been like very inspired by a lot of like anime protagonists. Because I really love that a lot of people dress so normal in their world, and the main cast is always like, what is this aesthetic choice?
Yeah.
And I think a big part of it for me is, like, I have always just been like, would I look like a main character if I wore this? And that's kind of how I've developed it. And I've really justified it to myself, in a way, I think, because, like, I really do care about the well-being of youth. And I think for me, it's very much, representation is more than seeing a celebrity that's out there, but also just having adults in your life who are everyday people who like are something you can relate to is really important. I think especially with queer folks, we're now seeing a generation where there's a lot more, but like for myself growing up, there was no old queer people around me. Because like the sad reality is like a lot of us don't get to age. And so I think it's really important to be that kind of adult who's like, this is who I am, this is my aesthetic, I'm right here.
Yeah. Just like, all right, I get to exist, and so do you, you know?
Yeah, and it's so funny you say that. At work the other day, a child asked me if I was sick, because he was like, where are the triangles on your face? I was like, oh, God. And he was like, yeah, usually you have like the really cool triangles and the lines, but like, if you're sick, it's okay. And I was like, I'm not sick, I slept in, but oh God.
I have to keep doing this now. I have standards.
Oh God, sometimes I think about that and I'm like, I've had people, even though I have green hair, I've had people not recognize me at work because I'm not wearing makeup, and I'm like, this is kind of rude, guys, but like, I set the bar myself.
Yeah, the only person to blame is yourself, unfortunately. Do you find yourself kind of bringing in your like sense of aesthetic and stuff into your characters and into like the stories you tell as well? Like the worlds you make, I guess?
Oh God, yes. I I like to tell people that I like to make my games messy and my characters messy. And I think more so messy in the way that, is this a choice that I would make morally? Maybe not, but is this a choice that a real life person would make? Absolutely. Especially, I think the game I've thrived in the most personally is just Cyberpunk, because I think it fits a lot of my everyday aesthetic, so it makes it a lot easier. I'm like, oh, it's just me.
Yeah.
I've been told, a lot of my worlds, have what I've been told is a very colorful, psychedelic vibe, and that someone would like to see it elevated one day. And I'm like, wow, thank you, a great compliment. And I do think a little bit of my characters tend to be somewhat sassy, and they always tend to be either giant women or very short kings. Truthfully, I'm like, those are my two aesthetics.
Yeah, it's the two ends of the spectrum for sure.
If I'm gonna be a woman, I might as well be a giant woman,
Yeah. Do you tend to also kind of add in a little bit of your, I don't want to say politics, but I guess your just your queerness and your how society interacts with queerness? You add that in with your stories as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I 100% bleed my politics into my world. I think just because, I think coming from a therapy background with it too, I try to be very intentional with harm in my world. My personal approach is, the whole idea of, ableism, classism, racism, sexism. I think it's very lazy storytelling if you're throwing it in just to throw it in. I think if you are purposefully telling a story of that struggle and that challenge, that's one thing. But I think to just be oh, well, that's just because that's how the world is. I'm like, that's lazy, okay? Let's create other problems.
Yeah. I found that especially...
Yeah.
I was saying, especially for me as a white person who, I've never experienced, the bad end of racism. I feel it, awkward and unnecessary for me to have that in my make-believe world,
Yeah. And, truthfully, why are we creating spaces of harm when we use it as escapism,
Yeah.
I try to naturalize a lot of things. So, if I ever have queer characters or there are queer relationships in my world, they're just another kind of relationship. It's just thrown in. It's not really look at them, look at the gays, they're holding hands.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's I try to normalize it. Capitalism will always be the bad guy in my world, though. I'm sorry. I'm like, no. Sorry.
It just always goes back to it, It's just so hard for it not to.
And I think it's a social commentary on our generation, but let's not look at that.
That's for a whole other interview.
Yeah, I think truthfully, my politics tend to bleed more in my safety sheets and my hard lines or red spots where I'm just no, those are just hard no's. We're not exploring that. Because I'm I'm not gonna look at some of the stuff that we don't need to look at. But truthfully, I kind of more so create a setting, and then I get the vibe from my characters, my players, what kind of characters they want to play, and then we kind of go from there for a story. Just because I think sometimes there's a lot of stress to be I have to be the one who has to come up with the story. I have to be the main story writer. But it's really a co-op game.
It's collaborative, yeah.
We're telling a story together. It's not like the old school D&D where it's your whole job as a dungeon master is to kill people. It's no, we're here to tell goofy stories, and we talk about traumatizing our players as jokes. You can't really do that if your players aren't a part of your world.
Yeah. It's boundaries and communication are just the most important things at any table for any game.
Absolutely.
Great. I think that's all the questions and discussion I have for you, so I think that'll bring us to our game portion of the evening.
Can I ask you a question really quick?
Oh, sure. This has never happened before. Hold on.
So, same aesthetic question to you with the earrings, because every time I see you, I'm always so jealous. Like, your earrings always look so cool, and they always have, like, I don't want to say, like, a colorful vibe, but they're, like, so full of life when you have them. Like, they're very vibrant and, like, lived in. And I always love them. So do people, like, because when I see big earrings, I'm like, it's Dan. Hello.
That's honestly been a recent development, kind of within the last, like, 3 or 4 years, I want to say. 'Cause I mean, I only got my ears pierced when I was, like, I think 22. You know, 5 years ago. And the thing is also, I work in kitchens a lot, and, you know, a lot of kitchens don't allow you to wear earrings because if one of them falls off into the food, that's bad. But I think a big part of it has to do with the fact that a lot of my clothes are very neutral. Wear a lot of neutral colors and things like that, so I'd like to have the extra accessories to be more, you know, more colorful, more standout. Like, I have my bag has like a bunch of pins on it. I have all these various different earrings. Honestly, most of these have been gifts from my boyfriend. 'Cause, like, I had like a handful. I had like a handful, and he was like, "Oh, you like big earrings? Every single gift from me for you from now on will be big earrings." Like, these ones specifically also were from him. So yeah.
Listen, we love a guy who pays attention, okay?
Yeah. It's like, "Oh, you like big earrings and mushrooms? Great. Love that." That's all my gifts.
Oh, remind me later. We can get matching overalls, Dan. I saw these like mushroom printed overalls on like pink linen, and I'm like, I need these.
Please send me the link immediately.
Right.
Great. Train of thought. Great. Now we're gonna play a little game. The game I have for you today is something I'm calling Yaaaaaas Slaaaaay. I have a list of 5. What is that, 5? 6 D&D monsters, and I am going to ask you, how do you kill them, or what is their like main weakness?
Oh God! I retain this information.
They're not too difficult, luckily. Most of them. How confident are you? Scale of 1 to 10.
Here's the thing, right? As someone who like homebrews their BBEGs, you know what? I have the gay audacity of 6. I'll say 6.
6. That's nice. That's a C, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or a high D.
I was gonna say 1. I was gonna say 1, and I was like, no, we gotta believe in ourselves.
Yeah, confidence. All right. Our first one I have for you is the troll.
Oh. Are we thinking 5e?
5e, yeah.
I'm trying to remember the stats in my brain. I'm like, because I know there's strong BBs.
Mm-hmm.
Just like generic troll or like specific environment troll?
Generic troll, yeah. If you need any hints, I'm willing to give you a hint or two.
Part of me is like, I'm real stubborn, but I'm also like, int is my real life dump stat here. I'm struggling because if I remember right, they like have regeneration, which is the part I'm like, oh God, how do you overcome regeneration? It's hard because I'm like, as the GM, I'm like, I know what they do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I need a hint. I'm not smart enough for this.
Okay. First, I would say there are 2 types of damage that it is weak to. You only need to say 1. It does have the regenerator ability, and it needs to take this amount of damage, or this type of damage, to not regenerate. I'll say one of them is very common, one of them is a little less common.
Common, I want to say fire.
Is that your answer?
It was until you asked. Yes. Yes.
That's correct. It's fire and poison are the two that it must take.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I got one.
Yeah, I got one. This one is probably a little bit easier. Werewolf.
Silver.
Yeah, silvered weapon.
And only magic weapons, right?
Yes.
To my knowledge, can do damage.
I believe it's magical or silvered, actually. I might be wrong.
Okay.
But I think it has to have one or the other. But it needs silver to kill it. Yeah.
You're the host. What you say goes.
The next one, a little complicated, but the vampire, but just specifically what damage to not regenerate.
Isn't it running water?
That's that will give them damage. But so there's a type of damage that it gives them.
Oh god. I was just like, yeah, they can't take showers. That's honestly how I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say radiance then?
Yeah, radiant damage. Next, yeah. Next we have the Revenant. A lot of these are undead, I'm realizing now, which makes sense, but...
Oh god. I don't think I've ever used one.
Ooh.
So this is like... Do you know these, or did you look these up?
I knew these, but I use a lot of just the classic monsters a lot. This is all the information that's in my brain is D&D monsters, so...
You know what? That's so fair.
It's D&D monsters and baking, that's it.
You know what, though? Like, what a vibe. Are they also fire?
They are. It's fire or radiant.
Okay.
Yeah. It's also, it is...
Answers.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's a bit of a trick question also, because technically a Revenant, you destroy one body and it just jumps to another body. But like you have to destroy it with fire or radiant damage.
I feel like there was a podcast I watched where they like burned it and then put it in a bag of holding.
Oh,
and I was like, because like, what do you do? Because technically their ashes are still there. They're in like the astral plane. That's
That's actually very smart. Up next, I'll say our last two are not a specific type of damage. It's like a condition needs to be met.
Okay.
So first we have the Hydra.
It's like a set number of heads have to be chopped, right?
Yeah, I think.
Sorry. My dogs.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, it needs in a single round. The heads need to all be cut off.
Oh, in a single round.
Yeah, because at the end of the round is when it regrows the heads. So, but if all of them are off, yeah, I love a Hydra.
Oh my god. I have yet to run a false Hydra, and I want to so desperately.
I ran used basically the idea of a false Hydra, but applied it to like a different type of monster, which was a lot of fun. Our last one here is the Lich.
Oh, you have to kill it in its phylactery, right?
Yeah, you have to destroy its phylactery.
Okay.
Yeah, which is where it holds its soul, I think it is, and then it's like it will return in a certain amount of years. Yeah.
I forget. Can you like make a living thing your phylactery?
I think so.
Oh, juicy. Sorry, I just had an idea for something. It's fine. If my players ever
Let me write this down.
If my players see this, pretend you didn't.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But yeah, that's 6 for 6. Good job.
Oh, look at me. I feel like I got a lot of hints though. I'm like, yeah.
I applauded you along, but you did. Hey, you did it. That was all you.
No, you did the GM's job. Okay, I'm the player solving the puzzle.
Yeah. Great, thank you so much for playing. Um,
Thank you. I'm
yeah.
always so bad at these. This is a boost in confidence.
Oh, good. That's what I'm here for. Here near the end of our interview, I'd like to give our guests a chance to shine a spotlight on something happening in the TTRPG world they think other people should be paying attention to. So, what do you have for us today, Sin?
Oh God. Okay. Can I do two things?
Absolutely, as many as you want.
Okay. First of all, I've recently become obsessed with solo RPGs. The one I'm currently doing is Dwelling. Super cool. You enter a haunted house. I'll actually show you. It comes with like keys and stuff for different chapters and challenges along the story.
I just saw this one when I was looking through on some website. I can't remember.
So worth it, honestly. It's really cool because you switch between like journaling, but also like you write letters to yourself that at other points in the story you can open and read them as well.
Oh, cool.
And like truthfully, I just want to shout out solo RPGs because I think they're a really great, fun way to also explore what kind of player and GM you are. Because some of them are just like generic; they're not horror focused. But I recently realized I tend towards so much horror, so I'm like, oh, it's all I write about. Good, good. The other one is I feel so bad. I think her username is Black Cat Dice on TikTok. There's a lot of dice makers in this space, but very specifically, something she does, and like I was recently very lucky to get the funding through work, is she also specializes in making like body safe silicone dice. I actually have one at my desk here, which is like so good for neurodivergent folks because like it helps me focus sessions, but it's also like I work with people and like children who like have oral fixations, and so like they're actually body safe to chew on and they don't get wrecked. It's not like you're gonna hurt your teeth like on regular dice.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna ruin the dice and you get to just chew them and they're fun and squishy. I will always hype up people who do really cool accessible things in the TTRPG space because like holy heck, like we need more like spaces for people who have not yet been able to play games.
For sure, it's so
and now
cool.
I'm just gonna squish the
dice. Slightly off camera, just great. Thank you so much.
Anything.
Yeah, thank you so much for shining a spotlight. Everyone, make sure you check those out. We'll have them linked down below. I think last thing, what do you have going on? What do you have that you want people to get excited for?
Oh goodness. It's hard because neither of them have launched because they're pre-recorded.
This will be coming out like late December, so.
Oh, okay. Well, late December. The trailer of the show for Cast Party I'm on, we're doing a twist on Curse of Strahd, will be out December 11th, and then first episode actually comes out on Christmas Day, where I will be playing a scaredy cat Leonin who just wanted to run her tavern, but is now somewhere in Barovia and terrified.
Nice.
And I'm in a game with Alec the Bard, playing a world where the gods of other multiverses are coming to destroy ours, and I'm playing a god who has fallen from divinity. Living my best life. I don't know when that launches. I think early next year. We have not been given a date, but I hope people enjoy it when it comes out.
Keep an eye out for it. And where online, like social media, where can people find you specifically?
I am primarily most active on Instagram and TikTok. I used to be on X a lot, but sometimes I admire people who can run a lot of social media. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And I am sensationally.me, pun on my name, CIN instead of SEN, and I think it's spelled the same for both.
Cool. All those will be linked down below as well. But thank you, Sin, so much for joining me. I had so much fun getting to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, on any time. Thank you, everyone watching, for joining us as well, for hanging out with us. I hope you had as good a time as we did. I, as always, have been Dan the Baker, at Dan_the_Baker, anywhere on the internet that I want you to find me. Some places I don't want you to find me, probably, as well. But you can always find me here at Open Table Adventures. Make sure you check out all of the other stuff we have going on. We have all of our games, all of our actual plays, Park Strangers. All of the first season is out now. Our Monster of the Week game. We just started up Neptune's Revenge, our Call of Cthulhu game. We have all of our holiday one-shots. Our Christmas one-shot's about to come out. Our Halloween one-shot is out. All of our other interviews.
Grinding.
Yes, so many things. Busy bees. We have all of our interviews. We have some recipes. Make sure you subscribe and check out everything we have to offer. Once again, thank you, Sin, so much for joining us. Everyone, you are always welcome to pull up a seat here at Open Table Adventures. Bye-bye.